All right, let me get straight into this lesson. But as I promised, we getting into this solid weapons for quiet wars. What does this mean? We're gonna break it all down. So you can be at war, but it's no missiles, no guns are being fired, no tanks, no airplanes. All right, you could be at a war, and this is a method of war that the so-called white man has used on you, and you don't know what's going on. It is everywhere that you look, smell, touch, see, but you don't know it's there. I'm going to break it all down so you can understand what's going on. All right, so solid weapons for quiet wars. Let me get into this video. Give me 1 second. All right, so I'm going to start reading this video right here. It says, I watch my generation going down in flames. Tell me why can't we change? Why do we sit back? We'll never have control over the lives that we have chosen as long as we remain blind to the truth laid out before us. Keep going. Right? A nation of media slaves waiting for the latest trend, force fed the issues. Oh man, it's heavy right here. It says waiting for the latest trend. So that's what our people get into, the next trend, whether it be a fashion trend, social media trend, the next dumb shit that they can do. It says force fed the issues. Check this out. This crafty right here. So all your media is owned by the Edomites. So they tell you what to talk about. They tell you what's important and what's not important, right? They guide your whole existence through the media, right? So we bringing out this high level truth, but because the media is not talking about it, it's not a headline on the View. People don't care about it, but it was a headline on the View in your mass media. People, that's what people talk about. Force fed the issues, right? It says in the guilt free cause of the weak hid from every side was beneath the surface so many lies beneath the surface. Let's keep going. So many lies, yet we remain ignorant to the truth. That's the typical so-called American, right? And we become slaves to our inabilities, right? So Jake, when they can't figure things out, things get too hard, they just don't even try, right? When you seek out wisdom, it's gonna be sometimes things are hard to be understood, but you keep chipping at it, you pray on it, and you walk in the spirit. It eventually the understanding will open up if it's meant for you to get it. It says, "What we do not know, we we ever bother to learn." That's heavy. So much to challenge, but we would never rise to the occasion. That's so true, right? So this is a heavy thing right here. I'm gonna get into this article. Give me 1 second. 1 second. All right, so let's get into this article. So again, the subject is silent weapons, acquired weapons in silent wars. Right here at the top, it says the power of quiet weapons in silent wars. Let's get all into this. All right, starting at the top. It says silent weapons, as the name suggests, played a part by quietly spreading chaos. Weapons of mass destruction today are not guns or grenades. Rather, they are global supply of money through privately owned reserves. Do you hear this? It says everything that is expected from an ordinary weapon can be expected from solid weapons. But the only difference is how they operate and what the consequence of such a quiet war are. So let me give you an example. Like they created this whole thing with feminism to divide the man and the woman. They have the woman warn with the man. That's a solid weapon for a quiet war. You got something that's called redlining. I'm going to get into that. These things that you can't see with the physical eye. Some things you can see, right? If you go to these neighborhoods, you can see that the most affluent, the most expensive homes are predominantly in so-called white areas, and the ghettos, right? The poverty, right? The crime is in so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American areas. But you can see that as clear as you can see, like if you go, car shopping, right, and you see a car that's blue that you like, that's obvious, right? You can see it in front of you. This is more subtle. This is more systematic, if that makes sense. Check this out. It says economic amplifier. So this is another thing, example I want to make. You go through all these places in America, Babylon, you see these sprawling Christian churches. And what is that re-emphasizing so-called white supremacy? Because so-called white supremacy built these mega churches, right? So that's another silent weapon for a quiet war. Check this out. It says the use of silent weapons in wars are not a new concept. The only difference in another thing they do is propaganda, right? It said the only difference is how the weapons operate and what consequences they bring. One of the main types of silent weapons is economic engineering. Boy, this is getting heavy. Which uses economic amplifiers to control, manipulate the economy. It says advertising is one of the simplest and most effective amplifiers that can change the perspective of an entire population. Do you hear this? Advertising. They advertise you death every single day, but if they word it a certain way, you'll fall for it. Starred in Christianity, right? It says media can create and overcome economic crises depending on its role. It says to ensure the desired outcome. It says input output signals are equally important. Society is controlled through certain reins that play a role of bullets in conspiracies. Some of the control include control opportunities. Right here. Control manufacturing, control capital, control services and labor forces, create chaos and disorder. That's why they got the LGBT, the transgender. That's a disorder that they create the chaos, right? To make you people throw these enchantments in your mind so you could think this normal. They want to normalize LGBT transgenderism. That's a silent weapon for a quiet war, right? It says the list goes on, and these controls are not necessarily imposed in the same order, but they have everlasting impact on society. So they do all these things in your mind. A lot of people don't know what mind control is, right? Mind control is when they can implant the thought in your mind, right? This is one of the ways of mind control, and normalize it to you to when you don't see a problem with it, like LGBT, right? That's a program. That's a solid weapon for a quiet war. I'm gonna show you something else. It can go on, but I ain't gonna have enough time to get to everything. But you get the gist of it. So they do this in many different ways, right? Economically, right? Like I gave you the example that Jake is known. They know they getting oppressed, but Jake's so docile and so in survival mode and just so beat down with his life, they ain't got time to focus on it. So what Jake want to do is entertain themselves and go into folly because all this stuff is draining, right? It's too much for them. They have not the spirit to endure. So let's go to this silent weapon for quiet war. One of the techniques is called redlining. Maybe you Jake's heard of this. Some of you probably not. It says redlining is the illegal practice of denying people across. I'm sorry, people access to services such as credit, insurance, healthcare. That goes on to this very day, right? But they'll say it's illegal. But everybody understands that this is going on. It says based on their race and or ethnicity and where they live, they it said the term comes from the idea that the banks and insurance company might outline these areas in red on a map. So they are like those poor areas that have them already mapped out. The more influent neighborhoods and with so-called money was typically the so-called white neighborhoods. They got them already structured out, but you don't know this is going on. It says redlining is a form of structural racism where racism is built into the rules of society. Do you hear this? And it goes on many other levels because you got something called sundown towns that's still alive and well. Your ass get caught there, you might not, you might get put to death. So it's all these things that's built into the fabric of the society that you jakes keep fucking ignoring, right? You trying to have this progressive attitude about what's going on, and it's just not gonna work. Let's get into it. So again, this is a solid weapon for a quiet war. So when they redline, let's go to some images so you can see, get you a visual. And the so-called white people, they don't want you in their neighborhoods, right? They'll tolerate a few jakes, but this is part of this whole thing, a solid weapon for quiet war. It's going on, and some jakes don't even know this going on, right? Most jakes are oblivious to this history that is still going on in many different ways. I'm gonna show you an example. Let me get into this video. I'm gonna show you Jakes. You know what I'm saying? Jake too simple. They don't understand. So watch this.
You're a black person in a white neighborhood, and you're acting like one.
This is the interaction the Jones family never expected to happen in their quiet Discovery Bay neighborhood.
You guys are acting like black people, and you should act like black people.
Caught on surveillance and cell phone video, neighbor Adana Dean.
You're a black person in a white neighborhood, and you're acting like one. Why don't you act like a white person in a white neighborhood?
Who is seen.
See, there you go. Solid weapon for quiet wars. This is built inside of America. America is built on racism. Always have, always will be. And it's built in these Edomites' DNA to hate you Jakes just because you simple-minded Jakes don't understand that. Right? Right. So that's again, this is already established that Jake is moving into an area that's predominantly so-called white, and they let it be known in many different ways. And this Edomite actually came to his house to let him know he's acting like a so-called black person. But you Jakes get on this simple stuff and say we made, like everything is all good, like we made it. No, we made it when we get to the kingdom, when we put these devils in subjection. Again, a silent weapon for a quiet war. When a Jake walk down the street, they're gonna get profiled in his neighborhood. So this shit is going on everywhere you look, but you can't necessarily see it. Like again, if you would go to the car dealership and you would see a blue car that you like, you can see that car tangibly. This is built inside of America, right? Babylon, right? And it goes on and on and on. Again, there's something that with this right here, you actually can see this, right? This was a Edomite woman that I guess she's like, she couldn't hold herself, she couldn't restrain herself because she's a devil. But think about your Edomite that you work with that you think is cool, right? That they think the same way. It's built inside of America. Solid weapon for quiet wars, right? Give me 1 second. Right, and these the attacks that's going on that you unaware of, right? That's why they attack our women with the feminism. They gave them poison, and most of these women don't know that they've been used as a weapon. They don't understand it, right? Isaiah 29:15, but we understand it. It said, woe unto them that seek deep to hide their counsel from Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua. Their works are in the dark, and they say, who seeth us, right? And who knoweth us? So they do all these plots and schemes on you, Jakes, and you don't have no idea that they're going on. But the so-called white man has plotted and schemed and is continually doing it to this very day. You don't understand that. Silent weapons for quiet wars, right? Many other things that I didn't cover. Too much, but hopefully this lesson was edifying. Call Halal Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahushua, Bahashim, Brachat Kodash. Shalom.